Hello, I'm in my car, and I am here talking to you about a video I'm about to release. So it's actually the end of my semester, so I don't have a lot of time available because I'm mostly doing assignments right now. However, I just finished my major works for the semester, and I am really happy and kind of proud of it, so I thought it'd be a quick video I could make. So that's the video today. Hope you enjoy. As part of this assignment, I had to find another photographer who I'd cite as my inspiration for a lot of my works. Obviously, going down the track I went down, I chose a cinematic photographer. The main inspiration for my work was Liam Wrong. He is a fantastic photographer, usually shooting in Japan. I actually believe he recently released a book called Tokyo After Dark. It's sort of like this neo-noir, cyberpunk-esque sort of style of shooting where he's just shooting at Tokyo After Dark. He also does a fantastic job at adjusting his color palette towards the setting. Half of his shots, if you look at them, they look like they're either out of a movie or a comic book, and I really loved and enjoyed that element of his work. His style with color is where I drew a lot of my inspiration for my color palette in this set. And look, I'm in the garage now! Sorry about the cars, there's nothing I can do about it, it's just a sound I'm gonna have to deal with this small segment. That's important. You'll be playing without a camera. So the first picture I took was inspired by the movie Baby Driver. I wanted to sort of capture the essence of the scene with Brighton Rock. Why I chose to shoot this in the garage is because I actually had no lights at the time, and that sucked. What I did have the benefit of is garage doors, which meant that I could close this one and the one over there, and I would have, in fact, a darker environment. And as you can see, now I'm in this... Which, considering when I did my first attempt at this, I didn't have any flashes, seemed like a really good idea, because then I can just do a long exposure and stand very still. Here's the thing though, that didn't work. I had to try a variety of things until I could get access to a flash. Now the flash I got, I actually borrowed from a wonderful human being who let me borrow it for my project. I only had one though, and I needed 2 different light sources. So what I had to end up doing was get a ring light and put it on a ladder, sort of blue tacking it. Not the most legit design, to be honest. And keep it there and do a long exposure. That way I got the detail in the flash coming across my face, but I also got a longest exposure going, allowing the light up the outside of the car. This is how it turned out. This was my first picture. If I had to be honest, I think this one is probably the weakest one out of the set, but it's also the first one I did when I had to do it under pretty extreme conditions. So I'm still happy with it. I had a lot of fun shooting it, and I do think it's an alright picture. I just think it's the weakest one out of the set. If you disagree, comment down below or tell me what you think. This was the only photo in the vein of this photographer that I was actually able to keep. Originally, I wanted to take this pic with a Superman while sunrise, while he's looking over a lake, showing his muscular body, very much of a gigantic heroic proportions to the rest of everything else that is going on. Originally, I planned to ask my friend Darcy.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
I was gonna mention this, but you look really buff.
However, due to lockdown, this is one of those pictures that I had to change and compromise with. Because unfortunately, we got hit by lockdown, which unfortunately meant I couldn't get access to Darcy because he lived in a completely different part of the city to me. So this is an example of me having to make changes and compromises, to be creative to try and push this idea forward so I could take this picture. Fortunately for me, my lovely girlfriend and the fantastically wonderful Jessie stepped up to the plate, and I changed the shot from a Superman pic to a Supergirl pic. Also, because I was able to visit her and we were able to go for a walk within a certain radius of her place, we were able to go up and actually take this picture. This is the only one of the pictures in the collection that is a HDR. What is a HDR, you say? A cool picture. Let's leave it at that. The first time we took it, it was really windy, and because it is a combination of 3 different pictures, the picture actually came out quite blurry on everything but the model, and I really wanted to increase that detail. So all I had to do was go up on a second day and take all the pictures when it was less windy. I really like the detail in the second one, but I prefer the color vibrance of the first one. It's not terrible. I really like both of these shots. Anyway, let me know what you think about them and which one you prefer in the comments down below. So this next piece was originally part of that previous piece, except it was a split off. That last one was eventual reality where I was able to do it, whereas this next one was the original continuation of that first piece. You see, I originally came up with the concept for this one immediately after lockdown set, and I was pretty bummed out because I couldn't take the majority of my shots. And so as a response, I changed this particular piece to represent that. Originally, it was going to be Superman naked in a cape in the shower. I'm in a glass case of emotion. Then I sent that to my friends, and I got told that was a tad bit too bleak. So I decided to try and make it a bit more optimistic. Also at that particular time, I myself was becoming more optimistic because I was doing my whole workaround thing where I figured out how I could do some of my shots or changing my shots that I could still do them despite being in lockdown and isolation and all that stuff. So that was good. This one actually took a little while to do, a little bit longer than expected, because the fact is I didn't have a flash. So originally I tried it with completely just a long exposure and trying to stay as still as possible with a high ISO. And that didn't work at all. Quality just wasn't good. It was way too grainy. There wasn't a lot of detail in my face in the mirror. So in essence, that made the picture kind of suck. But the concept was there and I could show people and they liked it. I just need to improve it. The second thing I did was I realized, oh, I have a flash on my camera. The issue with this was I could only do one color then, and the color came out really dry. Wasn't as dynamic as I'd like it to be, which was very fortunate because after this, my teacher allowed me to borrow his flash, and that was great because then suddenly I could change the angle of the flash and get this really dramatic shot. I don't know. I really like this picture. It was absolutely fun to shoot. Thank you for listening to this section. What picture's next? So this next one, I was still really just experimenting around with my flash, seeing what I wanted to do. I knew for this particular shoot, I wanted to do a horror shot. Spoiler warning for the original Halloween, I guess.
Michael?
Was the kid stalking and following people around. So I tried to take something a little bit more voyeuristic. And so once again, the assistance of my girlfriend who was around at the time, and I took this. I'm actually really happy with how this turned out because it is just one flash and a long exposure. However, I don't entirely like it because it feels very creepy. It is effective in that it did what I wanted it to do. However, I don't feel good looking at this picture. It does feel very voyeuristic. And admittedly, once again, that is what I was trying to do. But should I have tried to do that? It doesn't feel as fun as the other shots. And I included it in my set because I did want to acknowledge that this photo achieved what I was aiming for. But once again, I think it achieved what I aimed for too well and kind of creepy. Devious picture. I'm going to change the seat because this isn't very Christmassy. So this thing right here has absolutely nothing to do with the next picture. I just felt kind of creeped out by that last picture while talking about it, so I decided to set this up. Not at all a situation where I just got this and I'm very excited to have it because I'm planning to take baby photos this holidays. Anyway, next picture. So this picture was the horror movie one I was actually really excited for. While shooting that first one, I actually came up with the idea for this one where I wanted to do something that really captures sort of like the Halloween spooky-esque sort of horror movie spirit. So that's why I shot these. And I actually have quite a few alternatives to these shots. And the reason is because it was really fun to shoot. I had a lot of fun just playing around with it. And that's why I'm going to be showing a lot of these alternatives right now. I basically just got a pumpkin on cheap after Halloween and then carved it out. I even did a TikTok about it. Now, unlike the rest of my shots where I kind of go for that red-blue sort of aesthetic, I decided I wanted a more yellow tinge because believe it or not, I actually think orange and yellow have a better representation of Halloween than red and blue. Call me crazy. A big component of this wasn't just splitting the light between the two sides so you get these two different dynamics going on, but actually was lighting up the pumpkin itself. I tried several different things, such as long exposure of candles, but in the end, I just had to get out an old floodlight and just stick it in the pumpkin, which you can actually see in the shot, unfortunately, but I didn't have any other lights to really use. So I'm actually the model lying down, so I had to do a self-timer on my thing, run bolt, get in position, and make sure I was lined up. I just wanted the pumpkin to just like reveal slightly my mouth, so you do see that there's a body behind it, sort of like this slight personification, but not too much to reveal my nose. And that was one of the most challenging elements of this photo, was actually just lining everything up. I'm really happy with this picture. I'm really excited about this picture, and I'm really excited that this was part of the set. I've nearly smashed my glass right here like 3 times trying to do that shot. Anyway, this shot was the next shot I took. It was another one that was really fun to shoot. At this point, I figured I had done enough mainly focusing on the flash, and I wanted to try something a little bit different. I wanted to do something a little bit more experimental. I decided I wanted to do my next villain shot and have it be out of focus. The reason I decided to do this shot completely out of focus, aside from trying to be an experimental brat, was because I wanted to create this level of disillusion with the character to make him feel a bit more impeding, and that's also why I got for the low angle and the very tight shot. I used sky as my backdrop, that way it'd be entirely one solid ray of light. I also, to try and help with this, I used the sliding glass doors to set the framing, to hopefully make the shot a lot more tighter. That's also why I've exported it at 5:7. I really like the way it's come out. I did a few experiments with different color sets for what was hitting them, but in the end I really favored the black and white and the red. And I'm really happy with how this actually came out, because once again, this was an entirely experimental process with this shot in that I didn't want anything to be in focus. And to have it still come off as this mysterious villain-esque picture kind of makes me really happy. It fills me with joy. But that's the story behind this picture. So my final 2 pictures. That looks perfect. I'm going to use this take absolutely. So I did want to do something heroic as a final sort of send-off, and this is the last one I was able to take. I literally got my own flash that morning, and I wanted to play around with that. You know, once again, I was able to do a lot more once I had a second flash. And I wanted to take something a little bit different, a different kind of heroic shot. So I decided to go with a Dick Tracy sort of S kind of shot, very neo-noir stylization that I really like. I originally went for a yellow and blue and a yellow and red, just because I really wanted this to be a bit more of a Dick Tracy sort of X shot. I really did like them, but I actually thought they could be better in different colors. And I actually did come across some colors that worked really well. In the end, I decided to use red and blue so it better match the rest of the set. This one I got a lot of alternatives like I did the other ones because it was just fun to shoot and I was really happy with it. It's also a great example of costume improvisation because I didn't have the exact Dick Tracy costume I wanted, but I also knew that because it was a super close-up tight shot, I could kind of improvise a little bit. And that's why I used my farm hat, because I knew that if I got it this close, it adds that little lovely like leathery detail here, and I really like that. It still adds that cool aesthetic. I was really happy with these shots. I'm really glad I got to take these shots, and these were the final shots I was able to take. So I'm really glad I was able to end on a hero shot opposed to a villain style shot, because it just feels more optimistic and I really like light of optimism. Admittedly, I didn't get as many shots as I would have liked to, but, you know, sometimes shit just happens. I got down in isolation and the city went into lockdown, so I couldn't work with models or in the studios. But also, once again, if it wasn't for the lockdown, I would not have had half these shots. I wouldn't have had to be as creative as I had to be with a lot of these shots, and I wouldn't have learned certain new skills I only really learned because of the lockdown. And so ultimately, I'm really happy with this set, and I'm happy to show them to you. What do you think of these sets? If you have any photography tips or any ways I could have improved any of these shots or any ideas, just comment that down below. I'm happy to hear about it and happy to talk about it. Otherwise, this was my exhibition photos, my major works for this semester. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Thank you.